Okay, class, before we commence our class this morning, can I ask someone to lead our opening prayer? Can you lead our opening prayer, Gia?
Okay, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil, amen. In the Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen.
And thank you so much. Okay, again, good morning, Queen of Peace class. If you can hear me loud and clear, kindly click the raise hand button. Yan. How about Prince? Okay. Kinsa ba diri ang nag-attend last Thursday sa kuang klase? Atong giipon mo tanan. Ikaw, i-press daw ang raise hand button if nag-attend mo. Yan, tulo lang. So, wala. Si Prince, tsaka si, Maria. Okay, our topic this morning kasi class, it's just a continuation about what we have discussed last Thursday. Excuse me. So, with that being said, anyone can tell me what we have discussed last week? Ano ba yung topic natin last week? First topic natin, no, under physics. Ano ba yung diniscuss natin last week? We've discussed about, it starts with letter P. Ayun siya. Pinalimta na. Ayan, exactly, no, from Clea. We have projectile motion. We have discussed about projectile motion. So, projectile motion class, again, it has two types. Dalawang klase. Types class, no? Iba kasi yung components, no? When we say two types of projectile motion, we have horizontally launched projectile, the one that we have discussed last week, and we also have angle launched projectile. So, angle launched projectile, that is our topic this morning. So, depending on how you throw the object, for example, kung ilabay lang mo siya pa straight, then that is horizontally launched projectile. But if you are going to throw the object up in the air with a certain degree, no, applying a certain angle, then that is angle launched projectile. 60 degrees, 30 degrees, magkano ba yung i-apply nyo na angle? So that will depend on you. Alright, so with that, let me just share my slide. And I'm really wondering, no, why there have been few students attending classes nowadays, synchronous classes. Anyway, yan. Okay, so part of our review class. So I have a question here on your screen. It states that what is projectile motion? Can you still recall the definition of projectile motion? Ano ba yung projectile motion class? Briefly explain or describe. What is projectile motion? Maria, Sam, Jasmine, Prince. Ayan, from Glia. We have a form of motion where the object moves in a curved path. Ayan, exactly. That is the exact definition that I have here on my screen. So when you say projectile motion class, it is a form of motion or movement, kumbaga, no? Where an object moves in a curved path. Yung object class, we also call it projectile. Okay, kaya nga tinawag na projectile motion. If we are going to throw the object horizontally or applying a certain angle, then if we are going to trace the path, no, taken by that object, then we will be able to discover that the path taken by that object is nasa pa-curve na na pattern, no? Pa-curve yung kanyang movement. So it will move in up in the air Okay? And then it will eventually move towards the ground, no? Because of the pull of gravity. Right? Now, di ba we have specific term when we say curve path? Di ba we dissect, no? We dissect the parts of projectile motion. So, we have projectile and we have curve path. Anong tawag natin doon sa curve path, class? Ano ba yung tawag natin sa curve path? Yan, exactly, from Sam. We call it trajectory. Okay? So, madali lang mo talaga itong projectile motion. We have trajectory, o yung curve path, tsaka we have the projectile. Okay? Now, give me an example that exemplifies projectile motion. What are these some day-to-day activities, kumbaga, that show projectile motion? Think of activities where you can associate projectile motion. Ayan, from Leah, we have playing basketball. Yan, exactly. When we throw the ball towards the basket, di ba? Movement sa ball is pataas. And then, later on, it will move towards the basket or ring. So, if you are going to trace the path taken by that ball, so you are going to discover a curve pattern. What else aside from basketball? Throwing a rock on a cliff, yes, no? Yan. So, when you throw a certain object like rock from a cliff, it will move horizontally or pababaw siya. Then later on, once it reaches its certain height or maximum height, it will eventually moves towards the towards the ground or to sa pinakaubos. Yan. So, playing basketball, throwing a rock on a cliff, and other sports as well. Even kaning I know that you have heard about this war between Ukraine and its allies and Russia. When Russian army or military fires or launches its missiles towards Ukrainian soil, it shows projectile motion, from the point of release or from the launcher. Okay, pabuto sila og missiles padulog sa Ukraine. Then if you are going to trace the path taken by those missiles, then naa siya pa-curve na pattern. Okay, so it shows projectile motion as well. So we are really hoping and praying hard, class, na this war between these countries will put into stop. Okay, mag-stop na siya because we slowly see the effects of this heart-shattering war between the countries. Kasi as you have noticed, it has become prevalent also on social media na yung presyo ng gasolina nowadays has skyrocketed. Yung taas, grabe ang pagtaas, class. Okay? Paano guni, Russia kasi, Russia is second largest producer of crude oil in the world. First, ang US, second, Russia, third, Saudi Arabia. So, they had to make major adjustments when it comes to their prices, economic-wise. So, nagkamahal. Kay, of course, we export crude oil from those countries. So, once mahala nila dadto, mahal po lang baligya dire sa Pilipinas. Unang kami, mga nag-drive og motor, mga rider, magpuyo nilang gid sa balay. Okay? Di na glaglaag. Anyway, yan. So, another question, Cass. What are the two components of projectile motion? Ano ba yung dalawang components ng projectile motion? When you throw the object, class, it covers two types of motion, or it undergoes two types of motion, or two types of components. Yan, from Sam and Maria. Okay, exactly. We have horizontal and vertical motion. Okay, or horizontal or vertical components. So again, projectile motion, class, it has two components, horizontal and vertical component. And again, just like what I have mentioned last week, itong dalawang components na to, class, is independent to each other. That means to say, horizontal does not influence the vertical motion of the projectile. So with that being said, meron tayong mga iba't ibang formulas for horizontal, meron din for vertical. Daming formulas, but very easy lang naman talaga. So ayan, we have two types of projectile. Again, depending on how you throw the object. You throw it horizontally, then that is horizontally launched projectile. And if you are going to apply certain angle to that object, like this one, that man kick this sepak takraw na bola, tama ba? So he applied certain angle. So that is angle launched projectiles. So this is what we are going to discuss this morning. Yan, for our objectives at the end of this session, you will be able to investigate the relationship between the angle of release, the height, and the range of the projectile. So, nana sila yung relationship class, no? When you apply a certain angle, then it dictates kung pila ka meters ang ato ang height and as well as our range. Saba na siya kung 60 degrees ba ito ang angle na i-apply na ba maapektuhan ba ang height, no? Na maabot sa object, maapektuhan po ba ang range? Yan, we will be able to discover that one later on. Okay? And then solve problems involving angle lance projectile. So there are problem solving, and I forgot to instruct you kaninang umaga, madaling umaga, na dapat naday mo calculator this time, scientific calculator. Okay? And then I will give you some instructions later on kung saan dapat na mode ng sa atong calculator. Kinsa ang na scientific calculator karon sa ilahang dool? Can I see a hand? Nabatay scientific calculator class? Or wala? Kung wala, can I see a reason mo to? Sige, please be honest. Na? Or wala? Lia, Prince, Jasmine, Sam, Maria. If wala tayong scientific calculator, no, we can actually search scientific calculator on Google. Naman siya dito available. So later on, I will be showing to you kung sa to akong reference sa scientific calculator. Anyway, let's proceed. So state your ways in order to become consistent in your studies. So I hope this time we will be able to reach this part, no, in our discussion, kasi basta problem solving, mahaba na yan, process. And when we see angle lance projectile class, these are the objects projected at an angle to the horizontal. So their motion begins with both an x and y velocity component. Actually, there is really no big difference between horizontal and angle lance projectile. It's just that in angle lance projectile, we apply a certain angle. Certain degrees, 50, 40, 60 degrees. Yan siya. There is also height. Okay, still height. No? Ito maximum height class, ito yung pinakamataas na height, no, na achieve or na reach ng ating object or projectile. Tinatawag natin yung maximum height or peak height. And as you can see here, our velocity becomes 0. Why? Because it momentarily stops, no? When that object reaches its maximum height, muhunong sa kadali, mag-stop sa kadali, that means, no, yung velocity niya is equal to 0 because nag-stop siya momentarily. Okay? Nag-stop siya kadali. Then later on, it will move towards the ground. And it also has a range. Ano gani yung range? It is the distance between the point of release and the point where the object landed. Okay? Siya. From here to this point. Yeah, that is our range. Okay? Questions so far? Clarifications? . Or nasabtan ba ba? And if there are no questions, can I see a raise hand button from you? Yan, napagay. How about Prince? And yeah. Okay. So I want you to really focus no on this discussion class kasi medyo tricky kasi basta problem solving, right? Even sa mga math subjects and na-involve ng numbers. So yeah. Okay, so this picture class, it shows no the relationship between those variables. Okay? So I want you to focus on this picture or illustration for 25 seconds. Okay? And later on, I want you to briefly describe the relationship among the angle of release. Ano yung angle? Kani mga 75 degrees, 60 degrees, 45 degrees, and so on and so forth. To describe the relationship among the angle of release, the height, yan, maximum height, yan, height, the height, and the range of the projectile. Okay? Sige, I'll give you 25 seconds to observe this illustration. Wala. Yan. Right, sige. Ayan. So describe class the relationship among the angle of release, the height, and the range of the projectile. Ano ba yung relationship nila based on this illustration? Anyone? You try guys, you try. Yan, from Glia, the height and the range of the projectile change depending on the angle of release. Ayan, so Glia says the angle of release or the angle you apply to that object will dictate the height and the range covered by this certain object. Oh, that's a good point. Ayan. Do you agree with Glia? Yan, Prince, Jasmine, Sam, and Maria. Do you have the same thought, no? Or thoughts with Glia? Or do you have any answers? And if you agree with Glia's answer, kindly press the raise hand button. And thank you so much. Okay, so that is absolutely correct, no? So the angle of release will dictate the height and the range of the projectile. Okay, so the angle at which the object is launched dictates the range, the height, even the time of flight the object will experience while in the projectile motion. Ano kasi in class? The larger angle, okay, the larger angle you apply on the projectile, the greater the height will it achieve. Ayan, so pinakadako na gi-apply aning tawhanan ni sa screen is 75 degrees. Di ba? The larger angle you apply on the projectile, the greater the height. Maximum height will it achieve. And it will have longer flight time. That means to say, it will be suspended in the air for longer seconds. Dugay siya magstay sa air. Okay? However, the range may vary. Why? So when the person strikes the golf ball with 75 degrees, no? 75 degrees angle, then it lands here. Then he decided to strike another golf ball, but this time with 15 degrees angle. So as you can see here, 75 degrees and 15 degrees have both reached the same range or both covered the same range. No? Pareha sila ng range. Yan, let me just have my pen. Yan, 75 at saka itong 15 degrees. So, pareha sila ng range na na-cover. That is why range may vary. But nevertheless, the amount of angle you apply on the object may affect its range covered. Okay? Ayan. So, the angle will dictate the range, the height, and the time of light. Ayan. So, another is, ayan, just additional explanation about the relationship between those variables that I have mentioned. So, as the angle of launch increases, the vertical displacement, or we call it the height, okay, vertical, di ba? Vertical is patindog mo na. Vertical, saka horizontal. The vertical displacement of the projectile will also increase. So, the larger angle you apply, mas great yung height na ma-achieve ng ating object. And then, at the highest point, the vertical component of velocity is 0. That means to say, when that object reaches its maximum height, just like what I have mentioned a while ago, it will momentarily stop. Okay, mag-stop siya kadali. So, our velocity becomes 0 or equal to 0. The time to reach the maximum height is half of the total time of light. So, that means to say, class, ano na siya? Sa third na statement. For example, if you are going to throw the object, from here. Yan, from here. And you throw it, and it landed the object in this area. The third statement states that the time to reach the maximum height is half of the total time of light. That means to say, class, when you throw this object, and then it landed here, for example, it takes 6 seconds. Okay, 6 seconds. Yan. So, it takes 6 seconds before the object landed in this area. So, total time of 6 seconds. Ilan ba yung half ng 6 seconds, class? Ilan ba ikatunga sa 6 seconds? Ayan, exactly. We have 3 seconds. That means, it took 3 seconds for that object to reach its maximum height. Okay? Yan, it took 3 seconds, for that object to reach the maximum height, and the 3 seconds, remaining 3 seconds, were spent by that object moving towards the ground. Ayan, tag 3 seconds sila. Okay? 3 seconds pataas, 3 seconds pa ubos. Okay, that is the meaning behind the third statement. Okay? Now, how would you compare the distance traveled by projectile launched at an angle 30 degrees and 60 degrees? As you can see here, class, if you are going to add the degrees, for example, 30 plus 60, and kung mag-equal na siya og 90, that means to say, parehas lang sila ng range na na-cover. Okay, for example, ayan, we have 60 at saka 30. As you can see here, the same lang sila ng range, Parehas sila ng point na nagland. Another, yung kanina, 75 at saka 15. Diba? 75 plus 15 is equal to 90 degrees. So that means to say, once mag-equal na siya og 90 degrees, class, parehas lang sila ng range na na-cover. Okay? Yan siya. Yan, I hope it makes sense. So, facts about projectile launch at an angle. An object is projected from rest, an upward angle at angle theta. So, we are going to appreciate this one once we reach the problem solving. So, its initial velocity can be resolved in 2 components. Again, we have 2 components in projectile motion. We have vertical tsaka horizontal component. And the horizontal velocity is constant due to gravity. So again, class, horizontal velocity or component is not affected by external force, no? It is not affected by gravitational force. Okay, dili siya maapektuhan ana. So that means its acceleration is equal to 0. Again, ito yung statement kanina, gibalik lang. The amount of time the object takes to come to a stop at its highest point or maximum point is the same amount of time it takes to return where it was launched from. So, T up o yung time papunta sa maximum height is equal to the time papunta doon sa ground. So, 3 seconds, for example, yung kanina 3 seconds pataas and then 3 seconds pababa. So, T up is equal to T down. So, these are the equations and formulas that we are going to use, no, in solving problems related to or relating angle launch projectile. So, madami yan siya, but we will not use all of these formulas, no, considering the time that we have. Okay, yung mga important, saka yung mga ano lang, yung mga basic lang. Again, I'm gonna share this strategies class, no, in solving problem. I mean, any form of problem. You have to read carefully the problem. You have to understand the problem. Second, identify the given. Ano ba yung mga binigay na sa given? Meron na bang height? Meron na bang distance? Meron na bang range? And identify the unknown value. Ano ba yung hinahanap? Is the problem looking for range, distance, time? And then select the appropriate equation that you are going to use. And then write the solution. And this time, class, I want you to take out your scientific calculator. Again, press the raise hand button kung naay tayo scientific calculator. Okay. How about sila Prince and Drexler? Inani ba yung scientific calculator class? Asan ko? Inani oh. Inani ba yung scientific calculator? Isa inani ilahang cycle. If inani, para sa kuha, kindly click the raise hand button daw. Yan. How about the others? Kang Lia, kang Maria. Inani ba or lahi? Okay, make sure class no na naka-degree mode ang inyong calculator. So if ganito yung calculator mo, isa ganito ganiha, si Jasmine ba to? Click. Ayan. If ganito yung calculator mo, make sure na naka-degree mode siya. Okay? Ayan, naka-degree mode. Ayan. Paano ba siya i-degree mode? Okay, listen. Click the mode class. Click the mode Jasmine. Click mo yung mode. Click mo yung mode. Makakita ka dyan ng DEG. D-E-G. Yan, D-E-G. Capital letter. Kanan. Nakita ba mo, Jasmine? In my case kasi, when I click this mode, first click is wala ka pang makita na DEG or DEG. So, I have to click again. Once I click it again, mag-appear na yung DEG. Ayan. Capital letter D, small letter E, small letter G. DEG. So, in my case, number 1 ang DEG. So, I'm gonna click number 1. So, naka-degree mode na ang ako ang calculator. Ang usay mong calculator, Sam? Inani? For lahi. Nabay camera, Sam? Okay. Nana yung mode diha sa ano? And wala siya yung mode. Okay, alright. Click mode pa daw, tas apa? Ayan. Shift mode according to ano? Maria. Nanay mo, Maria? Okay, lahi. Hindi mo ha. Right? Sige, wait lang ha. For those who do not have, sige. Nakuha na niya. Okay, sige. For those who do not have scientific calculator, actually, napod tayo ma-search no, sa ato ang Google. Okay, for Drexler. Kay, sa ato. Scientific calculator. I-search niya sa Drex. Kanina. Scientific calculator Desmos. Siya. Okay. Yan, scientific calculator Desmos. Okay, sige, let us proceed with our problem solving. I hope na-download ba nato ang file na akong gisend ganiha buntag. I hope na-download ninyo, no? Okay, for a while lang. Okay, let me just open the file. Ayan. So, I'm gonna paste the question class in the chat box. Yan. So, this is our first question. Yan. Our first question is, a ball is fired from the launcher with an initial velocity of 27 meter per second at an angle of 35 degrees to the horizontal. First question, what is the maximum height reached by the ball? Second question, what is the horizontal displacement or range of this projectile? Okay. So, okay, class. I hope maklaro ba ang board? Ito naman ka. Okay, klaro. So, actually, nani sa file na kong design kita niyo siya dito. So, again, the question states, a ball is fired from the launcher. So, we have a launcher. And for example, okay, a ball is fired from the launcher. Right? And we yan. So, from here, from the point of release down to this point, no? Dito nagland yung ating bola. Okay. So, a ball is fired from the launcher with an initial velocity of 27 meter per second. So, we have a velocity, initial velocity of 27 meter per second. Right? If maklaro ang board, paki-click na po sa raise hand button daw kasi gamay ra kaayo. Okay, thank you. Sige. 27 meter per second at an angle of 35 degrees to the horizontal. Meron siyang angle of 35 degrees. Theta, ito yung representation natin sa ating angle, theta, no? theta, 35 degrees. Okay? Anong spelling sa theta, class? Theta. Ayan. Now, let us write our given. Okay? So we have initial velocity of 27 meter per second. And we have our angle, which is 35 degrees. And in angle lance projectile class, we also need to write the equation for gravity. Sila ganitong gravity na to. Gravity is equal to, sila man to siya. Napabay nakahinom doon? Pila to tong gravity? Ayan, we have 9.8 meter per second squared. However, class, negative ta. Negative sign represents the downward motion of our projectile. So, gravity, negative 9.8. Negative 9.8 meter per second squared. Okay, so we have now our given. Now, ano ba yung hinahanap natin? First item, ano yung hinahanap natin? What are we trying to to solve based on our questions? We are looking for letter A, class. Ano ng letter A dahil? We have maximum height at saka range. Pero uunahin muna natin yung letter A, which is the maximum height. Yung maximum height, class, is ito siya. Okay? Pinakamataas na height na na-achieve ng ating ng objects. Okay? So from the ground to this one. Yan yung maximum height. From here to here. Okay? So in the document, class, in the file that I sent to you, meron diyang mga formulas. Okay? So ayan, we have here the formula. So, di ba, we are looking for height. That means to say, we are going to focus on the vertical component of the projectile. Vertical, kaya paano mo di ba, vertical component. So, height, we are looking for height. So, we are going to focus on this side. Now, which formula are we going to use in solving for height? The first one or the second one? Ano yung gagamitin natin na formula? First or second? Ito or ito? Yan, exactly. We are going to use the second formula. Another thing that I want you to remember, class, Natataka kayo kung bakit may sine tsaka cos yan. Okay, that is for angle. Sa horizontal component, we use cos theta. Okay? Nandyan yan sa calculator. Makita yung cos. Cos theta for horizontal. And then for vertical component, we are going to use sine theta. Okay? Cos for horizontal, sine for vertical component. Now, let us check kung pwede ba itong second formula. Pwede ba siya gamitan in looking for height reached by the object or by the ball. Do we have initial velocity in our given? Yan, initial velocity. Meron, wala? Do we have initial velocity in our given? Yan, if yes, kindly click the reason button. And how about the others? Merong initial velocity, class. Ayan, we have 27 meter per second. Okay? Yan, 27 meter per second. And do we have angle? Yes, merong angle. We have 35 degrees. Okay? And then, ito namang 2, of course, constant yan sa formula. Diyan na yan siya. And we also have gravity. Okay? Pwede din naman itong first formula class, but however, if we are going to use this first formula, that means we're going to discard the angle, which makes it wrong. Diba? Kailangan appeal si angle, no, sa scene. Yan. So, wala may angle din sa formula. Kani, wala itong dito. So, we are going to write the formula of the height. No? We have solving for A. So, dy is equal to v I, or initial velocity, times sine theta squared. Okay? Nasa labas yung square class. Over 2 times gravity. Now, let us substitute the values. Again, our initial velocity is 27 meter per second. Okay? 27 meter per second. Times. Sulat niyo yung sine. Sine. Ilan yung angle natin? We have 35 degrees. Okay? So, 35 degrees. Squared. Again, class, basta vertical component, sine. Basta horizontal component, cos. Okay? Over 2 times 9, gravity, 9.8 meter per second squared. Now, let us multiply. Okay? 27 meter per second times sine 35 squared. Open and close parenthesis squared. Yan, ganito ang pag-input sa calculator class. Okay? For those who have calculator. 27, ganito pag-input ha. Close and open parenthesis. 27 times, i-click nyo yung sign, click sign, then 35, close and open parenthesis, then square. Then press equal. Okay? Yan. For those who do not have scientific calculator, katong nasa ilang Windows or sa ilang Google, so same pa rin yung gawin. Click 27. Do not forget the parenthesis class. Open parenthesis 27 times click sign, then 35, then close parenthesis, then square. Now, what is the answer for this dito sa upper portion? Pila yung answer? 8.88. 8.88 ba? Baka wala siya naka-degree mode. Importante class, naka-degree mode dapat ninyong calculator. Isa pa ang nailayang answer. Aside from 8.88. Again, do not forget, kailangan nasa gawas ang square ha. Kaya kung nasa sulod, then you will arrive. And that's okay, Maria. That's okay. Kasi parehas lang yan siya ng result. Ganyan kasi yan. Sa ibang calculator, 27 times sine, then mag-parenthesis na naman sa 35. Tapos ganyan. Right? Then square. Yan siya. Diba, inane? Right, Maria? Nasa parenthesis, no? Dating sa 35 or sine 35. Sige. Isa pa yung lying answer class. Kailangan naka-degree mode class. Kung wala nga siya naka-degree mode, then dili niyo makuha ang tamang answer. 8.88. Bakit 8.88? Ayan. 133.65. No? Again, class, pag input niyan, class, okay? Press 27. 27 times, click, i-click mo yung sign. Then, 35. Sa ibang calculator, pag click mo yung sign, automatic meron siyang parenthesis, right? Ayan. Sa iba naman, pag click mo yung sign, para sa kuwang calculator, walang mag-appear na ano, walang mag-appear na parenthesis. Then, square. Ayan, we have Jasmine. So, Jasmine got the correct answer. We have 239.8. Okay, so we have, okay, sabahan niyo class. Kailangan niyo answer is 239.8. Do not forget the unit. Kailangan i-square mo din yan siya. Okay, so 2 times 1 here. So we have m squared 2. 2 times 1, 9 invisible 1 diha. We have m squared tsaka s squared. Yan. So, try usab class. Yan, si Glia, merong 2, kasi nakakuha og 239.8. Can I see a raise hand button? And we have Glia, Jasmine, and Sam. How about Prince, Maria, and Drexler? Calculator, man mong gamit. Sa pagbutang kong square. Ang sa gamit mo, Drexler? Naman siya, sa tawag ni kaning mga calculator, either i-click nimo ang x squared, yan diha pagbutang sa ani. I-click mo yung x squared na option diha, or i-click mo yung yung arrow pointing upward. Yan. Tapos click mo yung number 2. Naka-degree mode na siya Maria. Can I see your calculator daw, Maria? Do you have a camera? Yan, naka-degree mode na yan siya. Yan, sige, i-type daw. I-type ang 27, close and open parenthesis. 27 times click sign 35 and then square. (27) times sign. Kulang ng isang Maria, kaning parenthesis. After sa dapat dalawang parenthesis. Diba, sign 35. Lagay ka pa ng isang parenthesis. Then 2. Ayan, exactly. So, ito na yung answer. 239.8. Okay? Ayan. Kulang lang ng isang parenthesis. No? Ayan. Sige, let's go to Drexler. Nakuha na, Drex? Okay, wala. Pwede yung maka-share screen ba ka? Ayan. Sige. Sige, try usab. We have 27 times sign, click sign. Ayan pala, nakarad kasi yung ano mo, Dexler. Ayan, naka-degree mode na siya. Sige. Ano pa? Tawag niyan. Ayan, isa pa. Then, saka square. Yan, you have 239.8. Okay? Yan, naka-ano lang siya, naka-rad. No? Naka-rad yung kanyang ano, mode. Sige, sige. Welcome. Okay. Okay, next. So, nata sa ubos. Tapos na tayo sa ano class. Dire sa babaw. So, we have 2 times negative 9.8. 2 times negative 9.8 plus. We have ilan ba yung 2 times negative 9.8? The answer is negative 7.8. 2 times negative 9.8. Bakit 2,000? Ano muna class? 2 times negative 9.8. So we have 19.6. Try nyo usab Glia at saka Sam. Baka may napindot lang na iba, no? 2 times negative 9.6. We have 19.6. Okay na. So we have negative 19.6. Do not forget the ano class. Okay? Unit. M over S squared. Right. This time, divide na ta. Wait lang. Nakuha bang 19.6? If yes, kindly click the raise hand button. We have Drexler. Ayan. How about Jasmine and Prince? Jasmine, Nicole, and saka Prince. Ayan. So, simply multiply 2 times 9.8, negative 9.8. Now, 239.8 divided by 19.6. 239.8 divided by negative 19.6. Kailangan itong answer. Okay, we have negative 12.2. Okay, pwede niyo siya i-round off, pwede po dili. Okay, we have negative 12.2. However, class, again, just like what I have mentioned from our previous discussion, we will remove the negative. Okay, i-remove natin yung negative. Wala tayong negative na answer. So, instead na negative 12.2, we will have positive 12.2. Okay, wala tayong negative na sagot. The final answer, okay, remove the negative sign. Okay, so 12.2 or 12.23. Ayan, so depende na yan sa inyo kung i-round off nyo siya or hindi. And our unit, cancel the same unit. S squared, S squared. We also have meter. Cancel meter. So, 2 meter man ito, right? Kaya squared man na siya. Cancel din tayo ng 1 meter sa taas. So, yung natira, we have 1 meter or isang unit, no? Meter. We have 12.2 meters. So, this is our final answer. We have 12.2 meters, our maximum height reached by the object. Okay? Questions, clarifications, class? Nakuha ba siya? If yes, kindly press the raise hand button. Ayan, thank you. Okay, let's now move on, class, to our second question. The first question pa to siya. Okay, let's write pala. Let's write the dy, our height. 12.2 meters. Okay? Ayan, so let's solve for our um, second question. So we have here, what is the horizontal displacement or range of the projectile? So, since we are looking for range class, dito sa horizontal component. Okay? Yan. Range. So, the formula that we are going to use, isa na formula ato ang gamiton? The first one or the second one? First or second? Okay, exactly. We are going to use the second one, not the first one. Kasi, if we're going to use this one, then dili na ito ma-include si angle. Okay? So, we are going to use this one. We have initial velocity times, we also have angle, cos theta, angle, our angle. However, we do not have time yet. So, what we are going to do, before tayo mag-solve sa range, let's find out muna kung ano yung time. Okay, let's solve for time muna. So, ano yung formula for time? Meron tayong formula. Okay, madami siyang formula class. And, the formula that we are going to use is the last one. Ito yung formula na gagamitin natin. We have initial velocity. Okay, yung 2 pala, no? Constant. 2 times initial velocity, merong initial velocity, times sine theta, meron tayong angle, over gravity. Okay, so this is our formula that we are going to use. Do not worry, class, no? Nana siya sa inyuhang sa document na akong gisend. So let's have the formula for time. The total time is equal to 2 vi, or initial velocity, times sine theta over gravity. Now, let's substitute the values. 2 vi, or initial velocity, 27 meter per second, times sine ilatong degrees, 35 degrees, over gravity. Okay? Now, the next thing that you are going to do, ano siya, multiply 27 meter per second times sine 35 degrees. Ilan yung sagot? Sine ha, sine. 27 times sine 35. What would be our answer? Okay, we have 15.4 for Jasmine. Do you agree with Jasmine, or do you have the same answer with Jasmine? 15.4. If 15.4 yung sagot natin, class, can I see a raise hand button? Yan. So, 27 times sine 35. Ayan, we have Sam, Glia. How about the others? Yan, Maria as well. How about Prince, Drexler, and Jasmine Nicole? Ayan. Si Jasmine and Drexler na lang. 27 times sine 35. Our answer is we have 15.4. Okay? So 2 15.4. Do not forget the unit class. Meter per second. Okay? Over 9.8 meter per second squared. Right? Next. 2. 15.4 divided by negative 9.8. 15.4 divided by negative 9.8. Negative 1.57. Ayan. Right? So we have negative 1.57. How about the unit? Cancel the same unit. Meter, meter. Isang second. Dalawang second nito. So cancel the 1 second. Pero natirang isa. We have yan, 1.57 second. Now, 2 times negative 1.57. Yan, from Drexler, pwede na. 1.6, pwede yan siya. Pwede mo yan siya i-round off. Sige. 2 times negative 1.57. Pila? Okay, we have 3 or negative 3.14. Okay? However, just like what I have mentioned kanina sa ating isang problem, remove the negative sign. Okay? Instead na negative 3.14, make it positive 3.14 seconds. Bring down the unit. Ayan. Bakit hindi tayo magne-negative, sir? For example, class, maglabay ka og object, no? Labay ka og object sa air, then it landed to a certain place or to a certain distance, then if somebody will ask you, pila ka seconds before siya nag-reach dito sa ground? Diba? Dili man tang moingon og negative 3.14 seconds. Kasi walang negative. Okay? We will say 3.14 seconds. Okay? Positive. Okay? I hope it makes sense, no? So that is why wala tayong negative na answer. Right? So let us write our time, total time. Total time is 3.14 seconds. Okay, can I see a reason button if nakuha tanan? Yan, thank you. Kasi possible mag-anak mo ko isa ka problem class kasi possible mag-extend ta gamay. Okay, mga 5 minutes na. Okay, I hope okay na sa inyo. Okay, so now let's ready for what we call this one. For the horizontal displacement or range kasi meron na tayong time. Right? Sige. Let's solve for range class. Ano yung formula for range? Saan itong formula na po? So we have dx is equal to initial velocity times cos theta. Cos na siya class. Anong cos mo lang, sir? Because andito na tayo sa horizontal component. Pag vertical, sine. Okay? Horizontal, cos. Times time. And substitute the values. Initial velocity, 27 meter per second. Times cos, ilan yung angle? 35 degrees. How about our time? Yung kanina lang, bago lang. We have 3.14 seconds. Okay. Now, 27 meter per second times cos 35 degrees times 3.14 seconds. Ilan yung sagot? Multiply mo lang yung class. 27 times cos 35 times 3.14. What would be our answer? Okay, we have 69 point. Okay, we have 69.4. And meter. Bakit meter? Bakit siya meter class? Do not forget the unit. Again, cancel. Merong isang second. Cancel second. Meron din second dito. Yung natira, meter. Our final answer, 69.4 meter. So this is now our horizontal displacement or range. Ayan. From here, from the point of release to the point where it landed, 69.4 meters. Okay? Question, clarification. Basta make sure lang yun na naka-degree mode ang ato ang calculator. Kung wala na siya naka-degree mode, that means to say, dili niyo makuha no, ang tama na answer. Okay? If you have no questions or clarifications, kindly press the raise hand button. If everything is clear naman, no? Yes, pwede na siya. Just like what I've said, pwede i-round off, pwede po dili. Okay? Yan. Yung answer is 69.4. Diba? 69.4. Pero dito sa document, na ako ang gisend is 69.8. Kaya wala man ako to siya i-round off. Pwede na siya. Okay? Again, pwede i-round off, pwede po dili. Right? So I hope it's clear, no? Okay, let's now proceed to our second item. Second question. Our second question is yeah, this is our second question. Yan. So we have a projectile is launched at 28.1 meter per second and 64.8 degrees above the horizontal. Determine the following. First, total time in the air, total time no, of the horizontal projectile or object. Horizontal displacement or range for letter B. And for letter C, the peak height or the maximum height reached by the object. Maximum height, peak height, it's just the same. Synonyms naman sila. You do not be confused about these words. Alright? Okay, let's start. No, you have to understand the problem. A projectile is launched at 28.1 meter per second. So, for example, we have our ground. Meron tayong ground. Okay. Projectile daw is launched. Ayan. Darigikan. Padulong di ari. Di ari siya nag-launch. Okay? Ilan yung initial velocity natin, class? Based on the question. Tayo, going to identify. We have nasa chat box. Ilan yung initial velocity natin? Okay, exactly. We have 28.1 meter per second. Initial velocity, 28.1 meter per second. Our degrees, our angle, we have 64.8 degrees. Tama? Sa problem. So let us write the given. Don't forget to write the given class para guided mo. We have initial velocity is equal to 28.1 meter per second, and your angle theta is equal to 64.8 degrees. Tsaka include mo yung gravity. Gravity is equal to negative 9.8 meter per second squared. Okay, now let's have our solution. Solution for letter A. Ano ba yung letter A natin? We are going to solve for total time in the air. Pila ka seconds, no? Ang spend sa atwang object sa air. So, ayan, we have formula. So, yung formula natin yung gagamitin ni class. Since we have initial velocity, 28.1. We have angle, 64.8 degrees. And we also have gravity. Ito yung gagamitin natin na formula. So, for letter A, and I hope maklaro na yung board na wala siyang gisandig class. Buntat, naging sa class. We have letter A. And then, total time is equal to initial velocity times sine theta over gravity. Okay, this is our formula for total time. Substitute the values. Initial velocity, we have 28.1 meters per second. Times our angle, sine 64.8 degrees. Right? Over gravity, which is 9.8 meter per second squared. Okay? Over is equal. Sige, 28.1 meter per second times sine 64.8. Ilan yung sagot? Kababaw sa 28.1 meter per second times sine 64.8. 28. And we have 25.42 for some. How about the others? Kindly put your answers in the chat box. Yan, Prince, Jasmine, Maria, Drexler. Ilan yung sagot ninyo? 25.9. Okay, medyo yan, 25.4. Try mo ulit, Drexler. Kasi yung sagot is, we have 25.4. Okay? Wala na include ang mga 0.1 or 0.8 ba? So the answer for this one is we have, and kulang pala ito ng 2 sa ating formula class. Meron pala, papala itong 2. 9 is equal to 9. Yeah, so 28.1 times sine 64.8, we have 25.4. Unit, meter per second over negative 9.8 meter per second squared. Okay? So, 25.4 meter per second divided by 9.8 meter per second squared. Ilan man? What is our answer? Okay, we have negative again, we have negative 2.59. However, class, basta time na remove the negative sign. Okay? So, we will have 2.59 seconds. Second, unit class ha. Do not forget the unit. Okay. Yan. Cancel mo na siya. Cancel. The same unit, meter. Cancel second. Yung dalawang second ito, i-cancel mo lang yung isa. So, merong natirang isa. So, we have second here. Last, 2 times 2.59 seconds. Yan yung sagot. We have, okay, for Sam, 5.18 seconds. Do you agree with Sam? Do you have the same answer with Sam? Okay, the answer to this is we have, ayan. If you have the same answer with Sam, kindly press the raise hand button. And about Prince, ayan, si Maria, Jasmine Nicole, at saka, ayan, si Sam pala. Okay, so we have 5.18 seconds. So this is our total time. Tapos na tayo sa letter A. Sulat muna natin. Total time. 5.18. Okay. Erase. Now, letter B, class. Again, let me paste our question. Ayan. Letter B, we are looking for horizontal displacement or our range. Our formula, ito itong formula, range. So, this is our formula that we are going to use. Dx is equal to initial velocity times cos. Anong cos gani? Horizontal component. Times time. Dx, letter B na ta, solving for horizontal displacement. Dx is equal to initial velocity times cos theta times time. Substitute the values. Initial velocity, 28.1 meter per second. Meter per second times cos, ilan yung angle? 64.8 degrees. Times, ilan yung time? Kanina sa letter A, 5.18 seconds. Multiply, class. 28.1 meter per second times cos 64.8 degrees times 5.18 seconds. What is our answer? Your final answer. Okay, we have from Psalm 61.97. Do you have the same answer with Sam? If yes, kindly press the raise hand button. Yan. Parehas kang Drexler. Maria, Glia as well. Maria. And Jasmine as well. How about Jasmine Nicole Prince? Ayan. So our answer is we have 61.97. How about the unit? Anong unit, class? Anong unit? We have meter, right? Ayan, exactly. We have meter. Bakit meter? Cancel second. Ay, meron isang second. Cancel. Meron natirang meter. So, this is our horizontal displacement or our range. No? From here, from the point of release, down to this area or point. 61.97. Okay. Now, let's have the last one. Last na lang din ni class. Okay, last is we have peak height. Now, we are going to solve for peak height, the maximum height, vertical displacement. So, we have here tara. So, yan, vertical height or vertical displacement or height natin. So, di ba, we are going to use this formula. Meron tayong initial velocity, meron tayong angle, and meron tayong gravity. Okay? Peak height, letter C, nasa problem. So, formula, dy is equal to initial velocity times sine theta squared. So, inyo hanggang niya, itong pinakauna at ibuhat, no? We have over 2 times gravity. Substitute the values. Initial velocity, 28.1 meter per second times sine. Ila ito ang angle? 64.8 degrees squared over 2 times negative 9.8 meter per second squared. Hey, sige, sa babaw sa 28, close and open parenthesis, do not forget that one. 28.1 meter per second times sine 64.8 degrees squared. What would be our answer? Ilan yung magiging sagot? Okay, once mag-answer mo atong sa mga test your knowledge, gani class, okay lang na atong dugay gani kayo, no? Basta sure ang pag-input. Maalag dugay, basta sure ang ato ang pag-input sa mga values. Ipaspas kay ka makasolve, pero nakay nalimtan na mga values, wala gyapon. So, slowly but surely. Okay, for sum, we have 646.46. Do you have the same answer with Sam? If yes, kindly press the raise hand button. Ayan, nag-input pa. Sige. Basin kulang yung mga parentheses, no? Para kang kuan ganiha. Si Maria ba ito ganiha? Okay, do you have the same answer with Sam? If yes, kindly press the raise hand button. Ayan, Drexler. Ayan, Maria. How about Jasmine, Glia, tsaka Jasmine Nicole, tsaka si Prince. So our answer here, class, is, hapit naman na yung 10, 646.46 meter per second. Okay, do not forget the unit. 2 times negative 9.8, we will have negative 19.6 meter per second squared. 646.46 divided by negative 19.6 meter per second squared, you will have an answer na 32. Kung ano siya yung direct swap, ay 10 naman na 32.98. Try niyo na. Meter. So this is our meter second. Or siyang dapat meter ito siya. Okay, meter. Ayan. Meter per second squared. Ayan, kulang pala siya, class. Dapat meter per second. Ayan. So, dapat meron ditong squared. Bakit siya merong squared, class, no? Dito. Kasi, square po nimo ang unit. Okay? So, ayan. Square this one, meter per second. So, you will have meter squared over s squared. Okay? So, cancel. Cancel the same unit. Ayan. Saka cancel isang m. So, cancel mo lang isang m dito kasi dalawa yan siya. Cancel 1m. So, sa tira, merong meter. Okay, so this is now our height. Right? Questions or clarifications, class? Yes. For Jasmine, no? Pwede ba daw 61.9? Yes, pwede na siya. Pwede na siya. 61.97 or 61.9? Yeah. Yes, pwede din. 62. Diba? If i-round off mo yan siya, 61.9 become 62. Pwede yan siya. Sige. Again ha, pwede i-round off, pwede po delete. Either way, paras tama. Okay? Sige, if you don't have any questions or clarifications, kindly press the raise hand button, class. Right? Sige. So, if na mag-arise na questions later on, so do not hesitate to message me, no? Para ma-assist mo. Okay, sige, it's already 10:02 a.m. para maka-screen break ako. Kasi you have class pa. Sige, let's have our closing prayer all together in the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. So goodbye class and see you next week for our review. Okay, thank you, thank you.